COO, that sounds strange to say, and founding member Sean Ianni. Before we get started, do you have some special guests here? Yes? Would you like to tell us who your special guests are?
Yeah, I want to recognize Nick Gonda. He's in the audience. He's our executive producer. Alexandra Renzo is our producer. And I'm going to tell you, she fought for us every single day. This was like a beast to wrangle in and of itself, and Alexandra was the head wrangler. Thank you so much, Alexandra. There's also some founder besides Sean. There's Golda Blaze. Stand up, Golda, she's in the back. She's always the best dressed. And you heard her in the movie. She's so fun to be with. Oliver Polzin was in the movie. He's here also. These people built this thing.
Dave McPherson.
Right? Dave McPherson. We're getting there, Morgan. And Matt Crimmins isn't here tonight, but he is here in spirit. He was supposed to be here. And also Christopher Gray, who took all this crazy archival footage and actually made it watchable.
Nico has his first solo show in LA this week. You guys should definitely check it out. Future Fantasy Delight.
I'll give you more info later.
So before we get started, we were talking earlier, Jilann, and where you guys left off was about a year ago, right? And some stuff has happened since then. Sean, do you want to fill us in on what's happened since we left off in this film? Because, in as much as you can.
Oh man, yeah. I'll just give you how many hours do we have, actually?
We're never leaving.
Because it's not stopping. It's just been this, crazy. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot going on. We've got a show that we're opening in Vegas at the end of this year. We're working on a Denver exhibition. It's 100,000 square foot, massive new building right in downtown Denver. We just announced a project in Washington, D.C., which will open in 2022, a project that we're working on in Phoenix also. So just we're not stopping. The beast is continuing to grow. It's not a mere zygote anymore. It's really a beast now. So yeah, a lot has happened. I mean, all the artists who worked on the House of Eternal Return now have full-time jobs working in Santa Fe. We have a big production facility there. So it's turned into a company. It's pretty crazy.
Well, I just want to say, on behalf of probably all of us in this room, thank you. Thank you for making artists not starve, because artists and the people who support them are the last people in the world who should be starving right now. And I want to thank you guys for documenting it, because I do think that, when you walk into a space like Meow Wolf, which I have not yet been, but when you walk into it, you have no idea what went into making it, and you don't know the struggle that these spaces take to get up and running, and a lot of us sadly do know the struggle. So can you talk a little bit about getting involved with Meow Wolf, and at what point you knew it needed to be documented, and then how you went about getting this wily group of folks who probably, I would imagine, gave you some resistance. I love that moment where the guy's like, this can go in the documentary. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I actually am it's like a domino effect down the line, except Sean should be at the beginning of the line. I moved to Santa Fe 3.5 years ago for a 5-month contract for another film. Didn't know anyone, and had heard just these rumblings of oh, there's some weirdo young people building what they were calling, what someone described to me as a psychedelic Disneyland, and I was like, well, I need friends, I'll start volunteering. I was asked to do some behind the scenes shooting, and So I had no intention of sticking around, but you know, by the end of the 5 months, I was like, I'm not fucking leaving. Like, something's happening here. They're letting me shoot this. Let's see what happens. So I was around. I shouldn't tell this story. Sean hates it. I actually was laid off as a docent from Yale by Sean. I know I've never told this on stage before. I've never told this on stage before, but yeah, I was there documenting. I did a lot of volunteering, and then oh no, it's a bad look. I shouldn't have told this, but they did lay me off. But I think there was like some really sweet reasons behind it. They didn't know if they had any money, and they were like, she'll be fine. She can support herself. So, but look, here I am, made this film. These two incredible badass women came in once the film kind of got started, and we were like, oh, we're like a bunch of kids, and I'm not, I'm like a woman now. But and then together it became this like beautiful collaborative project where I mean they're very established filmmakers, and so when they came into the project, there was like a lot of grace and openness. And what do you say about it?
It's good. You can move on.
But you moved to Santa Fe, and then you discovered the space. So what was the first thing when you started getting involved with Meow Wolf, Jilann?
Well, I was brought on as a consultant to the project, and just sort of fell in love with everybody who was working on it and the story. Because as artists, I think we can all relate to the story in such a deep way. I mean, we live in such a left-brain world, right? And if we are sort of right-brain people, we need this kind of story so badly to be out in the world. And this hope and this is a paycheck for artists is like radical. And so I just immediately felt a kinship and loved the people involved and felt like this was something I really wanted to invest a lot of time in.
And how much footage did you guys have to work with all summer?
I think I have about 50 terabytes of footage,
My God.
like over 100 hours, and we used almost every last bit of it. So yeah.
It's kind of amazing because I think one of the things I think the film does really well is build this sense of space. It's really hard for a while to get a sense of space from that first opening shot of that empty bowling alley to those very beautiful, clean shots of the interior. And I think, again, it's really important to see how those spaces come together, both sort of physically. Will you guys talk about going through footage and what you selected? And if you guys, Sean, how involved were you and your team in the making of the film? How much did you guys know was going into the film?
I mean, there's stuff in that film that I had no idea, like there's footage that I had absolutely no idea existed. So the first time I saw a cut of it, I was just like, oh my God, you just pulled something directly out of my head and put it on that screen. So it was really psychedelic. The whole thing has been totally psychedelic. But yeah, I mean, the various Meow Wolfers were kind of involved in, like, you know, Jilann and Morgan just like called for footage, and they just came to every meeting and was like, do you have iPhone footage? Do you have stuff? We want it, and we want to incorporate it into this film. And I guess what people did had a lot of
We
stuff.
actually like tracked Golden down. She had a dead laptop that we like brought back to life. Like that's how it was important to find every nook and cranny that had been documented.
Although we keep getting people coming out of the woodwork saying, oh wait, I have this footage. Yeah. Thanks.
The website, more footage.
Right.
One of the things that I think strikes me most about a space like this, and one of the things that I really got into very early on is this idea of radical inclusivity. I never heard that phrase before, and I'm stealing it. It means something. I think you do it in the film. I think you show radical inclusivity. And I'm sure, Sean, it was a journey to get to that point, both internally with your, I can't say staff, I'm going to say your crew, your group. But then to see all of those little kids and so many people who look different and seem different in that one space. Will you guys each talk about radical inclusivity, and do you think achieved it, and can we keep repeating it, please?
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, there's a lot there, actually. There's a lot to unpack there. So at the beginning, the whole thing was just about community. It was just about creating a community that didn't exist, or creating a space that didn't exist for artists. And so part of that was also just like pooling resources. I mean, this is what every DIY space does, right? At some point you realize like, okay, if we just get together and chip in, maybe we can rent this like crappy warehouse and pool resources in that way. And so the inclusivity really just started from that urge and that desire. And so anybody who showed up and had an idea, we would just say yes to, because we were all about it. And so that's kind of how I think also the aesthetic kind of grew. This maximalist aesthetic was, ready to say yes to anybody. But really now, like looking back at it, radically accepting than we were radically inclusive. And there's a lot more work actually that we have to do. Inclusivity involves reaching out and including people. At that time, we were really just like anybody who showed up, we would say yes to. So I think that was really radical acceptance. And this idea of radical inclusivity is one that we're still growing towards. And I think there's a lot more room for that in the world, and a lot more energy that needs to be put into like an actual active, reaching out and bringing people in and including them. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's, it's a complicated thing.
I used to actually be in the movie, and a longer version of the movie, which is such an important idea, I think, right? Where it's like, now this is a company, and I'm quoting Sean right now, who's selecting the people that work for it. And before, like when I started, that was not the case. I was just allowed to be there. And so it's been really interesting to see missions, the ways and what it looks like to reach out to a community, an established artist community, from this established sort of like corporate entity. It's a company now, so it's kind of really fascinating how it's continuing to evolve in this way, and like this idea of radical inclusivity is still complicated and it has all of these layers, but I think, more than ever in some ways now, it's inclusive and not just accepting.
I mean, we just talk a little bit about the filmmaking process, about being on the inside of something and then sort of also having to stay a little bit on the outside, having to document dramas, having to go sort of in but stay, keep yourselves outside of it, and working with a group of people who I imagine, there's a lot of big personalities there, and you do a really good job of evening out the story for everybody.
I think one of the interesting things for us was how our experience really paralleled the experience that we were editing. We kind of went through all of these big shifts of, are we going to make it in time, and all this stress of can we pull it off, and the self-doubt, and I think for the three of us, it was really our favorite filmmaking experience we've had. We were really close and really worked really as kind of this team and felt guided by the beast also in that process, as we talk about in the film. So there was a lot of parallels, and it was very rewarding and stressful and wonderful.
Yeah, I think we can emphasize that it was really fucking hard to make this movie, there was a lot of responsibility. There's so many people when we're coming into it to make it, it's because they have become so successful, and nobody really saw that coming. And so this idea to document themselves, to document the group, to three randos, like we all have like great, they picked well, it worked out, thank you Alexandra. But to do this, there was a lot of trust, but there was also a lot of fighting on our part, which is what parallels the experience, where it's like, it's how do you reconcile your own vision with this larger vision that needs to incorporate a lot of ideas and a lot of experiences, and expectation being this huge thing. Where what Meow Wolf is sort of, for everyone that's a part of it, I've only recently started to grapple with this insider-outsider thing, because as a filmmaker, I was in this great position to be both sort of an insider and an outsider. And so it was really, a process of being able to trust in each other and allow for these voices to come in and shift the story, and then also us kind of find the truth of that and find our own voice in a cacophony of ideas, because there's so many ways you could tell this story, and so that we were able to kind of come together and distill down what we thought an audience would really connect to.
And keep documenting, really. I mean, I like, just from the video's perspective of it, these things matter, and in 25 years, being able to see what Meow Wolf was, like now, is gonna really mean something. Not only to the artists who you're documenting, because so many of these artists are not documented. And whether they're on a VHS tape or on a jump drive, it means that someone in the future will be their audience, and that's hugely important, I think. I just got the 5-minute sign, so I want to give you each enough time to tell me when did you feel the beast? I need to know.
Can I disrupt the process?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm the worst. This is why. Does anyone from the audience have any questions? I'd love to hear if there's anyone from the audience who wants to ask. Probably we weren't allowed. But what is your question?
The question is, are you going to release this film? Have you considered, entering it in some contest? You might contact
I want to win an award.
Independent Documentary Association. I don't remember, but I think you might look into that to get wider distribution and more advertising.
We have a badass producer of marketing and distribution, Mia Bruno, who we actually had a national release. See, this is why I shouldn't. I love your question. Who is here tonight? And the fact that we're sitting here at LACMA with you guys. Are you kidding? That's so cool. And it'll be available. It is available on VOD through the Meow Wolf website. And it'll just keep popping up.
It'll also be released on platforms really soon, so keep your eyes out. Yeah.
And people, the real way that people find out about movies like this is because you tell them. So, like, go and tell people. And tell people about Meow Wolf. I mean, you guys are big and famous now, but there are people who still need to be enlightened, as my best friend did for me. So, okay, now can we go to your Beast story? Because that was a really good question, actually. I'm glad that got out into the world. Okay, no, and you're Beast?
You want to get my Beast
I
story
like your
first?
Beast story.
So
I've never heard your Beast story.
I saw that fucked up kindergarten looking sign. That was like it. Like I got involved with Meow Wolf 1 month after they hung that fucked up kindergarten looking sign. Can I say that? Can I say fucked up kindergarten looking sign? Because I did.
It's not NPR.
3 times, I can say it 4 times. And I was like, I moved to Santa Fe randomly from the East Coast. You know, I didn't grow up there, Santa Fe, but I saw this weird fucked up kindergarten sign with Benji out front smoking cigarettes. And I was making art by myself. And I was like, I really like miss having a community of artists. And so I showed up one day and I just like sat in a pile of trash and made art. That was the beginning of the Beast for me.
And are you still making art? You're making art.
Yeah, I make like really colorful spreadsheets. So.
Can you send
Those
me your
are first time
template?
spreadsheets I've ever gotten.
The saddest part of the story is that John doesn't make art anymore. I'm sure he does, but we don't see it.
There's an art to spreadsheets.
There is, yeah, there's a zen to them too.
Your interviews.
I think it was when I realized that I was walking in every day to work in my house, which was amazing. Realizing that I was so happy to go to work every day with my best friends and feeling so inspired, and it really changed my life, and it really brought me back to a version of myself and to a new version of myself, and also brought me an amazing community. I felt like I was really sucked in. You know, all my closest friends in Santa Fe are part of it, and just it's totally changed my life. It's been amazing. I'm very grateful every day for the Beast.
Close us out, Jilann.
Oh God, pressure.
Beast us.
Jilann is the Beast. That's what I'll say.
We got the, thank you. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Beast.
You heard mine. I tried to leave. 3.5 years.
She got fired.
I'm
but-
saying I should not have told that story, but I like it. It's an underdog story.
I think that's an important story to hear. That you can.
Don't give up.
And don't give up.